Welcome back to the Whispering Pages Mysteries by Penelope Graves. Let's continue the Whispering Library with Chapter 6, The Things We Keep. Ellie had always considered the village library a place of calm. It had a particular hush. Not the stern silence of a museum, but the softer quiet of a room that expected you to behave simply because it had been standing longer than you had. Even the radiators seemed to click politely. That afternoon, it felt less like calm and more like restraint, like the library was holding its breath. Ellie arrived with Sam at her shoulder and the signed copy of Ashes Beneath the Ivy tucked inside a canvas tote, as though it might bite someone if left uncontained. The sky had gone pale and watery, the kind that made the stone buildings look freshly washed. They crossed the high street and passed the Arts Green, a neat rectangle of lawn with a few benches and a little plaque that read, Ashwood Arts Green, gifted to the village by the Ashwood Trust. Sam slowed, reading it. That used to be it? He asked. The orchard, Ellie said, before the trust. And before the green. And before the plaque, Ellie murmured, because plaques always arrived after the difficult parts. They went on. Inside the library, the main room bustled with the normal comforts of village life. Children's story hour. Elderly men pretending they didn't come in solely for newspapers. Denise at the desk with her patient smile. Vi Booth waited near the side door that led to the archives, her cardigan buttoned up, her hair pinned with almost militant neatness. She held a ring of keys like a scepter. You're late, she said, though Ellie was not. We're on librarian time, Ellie replied, falling easily into the familiar rhythm. Vi's gaze flicked to Sam. And you've brought company. Sam offered a bright smile. I can be quiet, he promised. I've practiced. Vi looked unconvinced, but led them through the side door without argument. The archive room was smaller than most people imagined. Not cavernous, not grand. Just shelves of carefully labeled boxes, binders, and folders that smelled of paper, glue, and long-vanished arguments. Vi closed the door behind them and turned to Ellie. All right, she said, voice lower now. Tell me properly. Ellie did. Not the dramatic version. Not the version Mrs. Finch would have retold by the florist counter. The facts, the note, the break-in, the dedication discrepancy, the missing signed copy, the toxin. When Ellie finished, Vi remained still for a long moment. Then she sighed. Oh, Thomas, she said, not fondly. Always convinced the village was a novel, and he the only one who could write the ending. Sam leaned closer to the nearest shelf, reading labels. Do you have, secret tunnels back here? We have mildew, Vi said crisply, and the occasional mouse with literary ambitions. Ellie placed the signed copy on the table and opened it to the dedication. To those who remember the orchard, she said. Vi, who remembers it? Vi's face changed, not dramatically, but as though a curtain had been drawn slightly back. I do, she said, and so do others, though some would rather not. Ellie held her gaze. Margaret Ellis, Vi said, before Ellie could ask. That was her name. Sam looked up. The woman who died? Vi nodded once. She wasn't from old money, Vi continued, but she married into it briefly. A kind man, her husband. He died young. She stayed. She kept the orchard because it was the last thing that was properly hers. Ellie's stomach tightened. And the trust wanted it, Ellie said. Very much, Vi replied. The trust was expanding. Consolidating, they called it. A tidy word for a messy process. Vi crossed to a shelf and pulled down a thick binder. Its spine marked parish records, inquests, and incidents, 1980 to 2000. She flipped through it with the ease of someone who had spent her life knowing where secrets were filed. July 14th, she murmured. Her finger stopped. There. Ellis, Margaret. Fatal fall from ladder. Orchard property. Ruled accidental. Ellie leaned in. The entry was brief, almost insultingly brief. That's it? She asked. Vi's mouth tightened. That's what was made available for local record. Sam whistled softly. That's minimal. Vi shot him a look. It was very efficient. Ellie traced the lines with her eyes. The wording was careful, the sort of careful that made a person suspicious. No mention of dispute, Ellie said. No mention of letters, Vi agreed. Ellie looked up sharply. Letters? Vi hesitated, and Ellie recognized the hesitation as deliberate selection. Margaret wrote to the council, Vi said at last. To the trust. To anyone she thought might listen. She believed the boundary survey was wrong. And did anyone listen? Vi's eyes slid away. Not publicly. Sam frowned. But privately? Vi's gaze returned to Ellie's face. Yes, she said quietly. Privately, a man listened. Ellie's pulse ticked. Richard Harrow. Vi nodded once. He was younger then, Vi said. Not quite so polished. Still learning how to wear influence. What did he do? Ellie asked. Vi's hands moved over the binder. She did not answer immediately. I don't know everything, she said, and Ellie believed her. But I know Margaret had a folder. She was always carrying it about like a shield. Notes, copies of maps, letters. She came into the library twice a week to make photocopies. Ellie felt the hairs rise gently on her arms. And after her death? Vi's voice lowered further. The folder vanished, she said. Sam's eyes widened. Like, vanished? Vanished, Vi repeated. And without it, her nephew sold the land. The trust acquired it. And the village got its green and its plaque and its tidy story. Ellie stared at the inquest entry again. A fatal fall from a ladder. An accident. A story everyone could live with. She looked at the signed dedication. The orchard. Thomas Lumley hadn't written those words because he was nostalgic. He had written them because the orchard was a wound the village had bandaged neatly and never properly cleaned. Ellie turned pages in the memoir again, flipping to September Light. The latter leaned too far that morning. It read differently now, less poetic, more pointed. Sam leaned closer, scanning. Okay, he said, quieter than usual. So Thomas knew about the orchard folder. Yes, Ellie said. And someone was desperate enough to remove the orchard reference from the dedication, Sam said, and steal a signed copy from your cabinet. Ellie nodded slowly. Vi's gaze sharpened. You said one signed copy is missing, she said. Yes. Which means whoever broke into your shop knew precisely what they were looking for, Vi said. Or they were given instructions by someone who did. Ellie's mind flicked back to Richard Harrow's question. And the signed copy? Still in your possession? He'd been checking, not casually. Checking. Ellie exhaled slowly. Vi, she said, is there anything else in the archives about Margaret Ellis? Anything outside the parish binder? Vi hesitated, then crossed to the back shelf and reached up to a row of gray archival boxes. She pulled one down and set it on the table between them with a gentle thud. The label read, Ashwood Trust, Community Acquisitions, Confidential Donations. Sam made a small sound of awe. This, Vi said, is the sort of box that makes people nervous. Ellie lifted the lid carefully. Inside were copies of meeting minutes, donation letters, and official statements, all neatly filed. It looked harmless. Until Ellie pulled out a single stapled packet, its corner marked in pencil. Orchard Project, July 1999. The papers were thin, old. The language was blandly bureaucratic, but Ellie's eyes caught on a line that made her breath snag. Expedite transfer to avoid reputational disturbance. Reputational disturbance, a phrase that did not belong in a simple land acquisition. Ellie looked up at Vi. "Why is this here?" she asked. Vi's expression was grim. "Because I didn't throw it away," Vi said simply. Ellie stared at her. "You kept it." "I filed it," Vi corrected. "Properly, quietly, where I could find it if I needed it." Sam's voice was hushed now, as though the archive had finally impressed him into reverence. "So, the trust knew there was risk." "Yes," Vi said, "and they chose tidiness." Ellie's mind shifted, connecting pieces. A folder vanished, an inquest entry too short, minutes suggesting reputational disturbance. A memoir dedication altered, a signed copy stolen. A man dead from a toxin that could mimic natural causes. And Richard Harrow, watching. Ellie gathered the Orchard Project packet carefully, as though it might tear under the weight of its own implications. "We should tell Thorne," she said. Vi's gaze held hers. "Yes," she agreed, and there was relief in it. Not fear. Relief. As though she'd been waiting a long time for someone sensible to carry the burden. Sam swallowed. And what if Thorne says to stop meddling? Ellie looked down at the trust papers, then back at the dedication. "To those who remember the orchard." Her voice was steady. "Then," she said, "we remind him that someone has already killed to keep people from remembering." Vi reached out and squeezed Ellie's hand once, quick and firm. "Good," she said softly, "because Ashwood has been too tidy for too long." Outside the archive room, the library hummed on, unaware. Children laughed. Pages turned. Denise stamped returns with gentle authority. Ellie tucked the Orchard Project packet back into the box with care. Secrets, she thought, were like books. They didn't disappear just because someone stopped reading them. Thanks for listening. Join me next time for Chapter 7.